We'll ask the presenters who present via Zoom to do their short presentation, and we'll entertain one question following their presentation, and we can also discuss these things in the post-lunch session. So we're looking forward to all that. Our first speaker is from Milan. Ernesto Milani is one of the most experienced historians in the early migration period, especially to rural places. And he contributed a short article on Rosa Casateri. He and I went out to the cemetery one, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that, and found Rosa's headstone. And we took a picture of it, and that's featured in the book. Ernesto is very familiar with all of the migration from northern Italy, and he is involved in museum presentations and developments, and he is involved also in the study of the migration of Italians to rural communities in the South. So, Ernesto, I'm sorry I can't do a better job of introducing you, but I'm really pleased to have you all the way from Milan.
We hope everyone will also bear with us because Ernesto's having a problem with his camera, so better sideways than not at all. Take it away.
Ernesto really is straightforward.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. And I just wanted to scold Dominic a little bit because he forgot to say that we've been friends for years, and that I've translated Italians in Chicago into Italian, that we presented not as successfully as Gloria Nardini, the book also in Italy. I'm presently, just for Dominic's information also, and thanks and thank him for his attention to my interest in rural immigration to the States. I'm actually translating, I've just translated 2 books about Arkansas, about the Italians in Arkansas, in the cotton plantations, and I'm translating another one, which is quite interesting, and it leads to what has been already done, some parts, or can be done also for a second book, and is the collection and interviews of older people and of young people, which is something that seems so normal, but it's not done by everybody. Well, the interest regarding Chicago is mainly due to the fact that, as Dominic was saying before, is about Rosa. Who was Rosa? Rosa is is featured in a book, actually one of the first auto or semi-biographical books about women in the United States. Rosa is a book that was published in 1970 and talks about this lady that was born in Milan, is sent to a foundling hospital, and then grows up in a foster family in Cugiono, which is a little place not well known in northern Italy, close to Milan. And for some of you who are not familiar, is the birthplace of the parents of Yogi Berra. So that's us. And any of you that have been to St. Louis, the Italians of Pugiono are the ones who founded the hill in St. Louis. At any rate, Rosa is this book that I discovered in when I was studying at University of Minnesota in 1974. And this book tells the story of this lady that grows up, as I said, in Pugiono, then eventually gets married and follows her husband, who works in the iron mines in Missouri. In Missouri, she gets some troubles. She gets in troubles with the husband. Eventually, she leaves for Chicago. And we're talking about the years 1890s and 1900s when she starts her venture in Chicago, and eventually she starts working as a cleaning woman at the Chicago Commons. And here she meets a social worker, and she tells her life to this social worker. Eventually, she also tells her about a lot of stories that she had heard as a young lady, and she is as a storyteller. Even goes to teach students how to tell stories at the University of Evanston in Illinois. Anyway, what's interesting about Rosa is what she learns in America, and one of the best things is the fact that she learns not to be afraid of anything, which is something that women in those days had. At any rate, unfortunately, the last time the book was published, I was involved in other things, and I couldn't contribute. But about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, I finished retracing the path of what had been written by this writer, social worker, Marie Hall Etz. And what has been written in the book, it didn't really jive with me. So what I did, I retraced the life starting from the archives of the foundling a place in Milano, then going through all the churches that Rosa had talked about, and then following her path in Cugiono and making a collection of what the writer had said and what was actually happening. For instance, the writer says that Rosa went to places where in Italy, talking about Italy now, where the people used to pinch the paper money on the Madonnas. This is something that is not correct, because in northern Italy people never put the money over the Madonnas. So I went through all the documents that I could find. I went to all the way from Milan to Le Havre, where she boarded the ship, to find out, to have an idea of the place where she stayed for about a week, waiting for the ship to depart for New York. Then I took a train from New York to St. Louis, to St. Louis, and then went on to Ironton in Missouri. From Ironton, I went back to Chicago. I went to Grand Street, or what was Grand Street, where she used to live. I went to the Chicago Commons, and finally with Dominic, we went to the cemetery and found her grave, which was totally unknown when we went there. So my idea developed into a book that I published in 2016, which tells the story in another way. It's not criticizing anybody, but it's just showing how the things that are told are never as they are, or they are, or maybe they are a starting point to figure out things that are different. On top of this, I had the opportunity while in Cugiono to meet an actress who is actually still now working in many theaters, and she's performing Italian women, and mainly Rosa, and she portrays Rosa. So this goes to the general public and also to schools. My idea for the second book is to elaborate a piece regarding this storyteller in Chicago, talking about writing about my book, and of course about the first book, and then even talking the experience of Nora Picchetti, who is the lady who's performing Rosa and Italian American women in the States. I think that my short presentation is over, and I thank you for your attention.
Okay. Anybody got one question? Okay, Rosa, the woman who represents Italian women in the 1890s through, when did she die? Did she die and lived into the 30s? Or?
She died in 18 August 1943.
She lived to be that to that age, so that's quite something. She was a storyteller, and I always love, and I always quote the end of that book as Ernesto said, not to be afraid. This is what I learned in America, not to be afraid. If I go back to Italy, I look at all those high people and I say, I am an American. So that's a wonderful, wonderful anthem that actually we quote in the book, and I've used to end a lot of presentations. And okay, Carla, any question from you? You're a fan of Rosa's.
I love teaching Rosa. I teach her in my classes, and it's interesting. The scene, there's a parallel with the famous Italian-American novel Umbertina. In the first section, Umbertina's moment of triumph is when she and her husband, they're both illiterate peasants from Calabria, are able to go into a bank and get a loan and are treated with dignity. So it's that sense of not being afraid that you've come into your own. That's what they learned in the United States.
Okay, any traveler who's ever had experience with Italian banks can verify that.
Yes.
Just for Dominic, I just wanted to say that when I translated the book into Italian, we had a writing by Rudolf Vecoli, and then we had also an introductive note by Helen Barolini. At that time was quite interesting, and I was in touch with her, and so I'm glad that Carla Simonini mentioned the correlation between the two novels, because that's what Helen Barolini used to tell me.
Okay, yeah, I regret that we weren't able to cover Rosa more in the first volume, but we did. And I regret that we weren't able to cover Mother Cabrini, may she forgive us, as But the problem with Mother Cabrini is all the people who write about her seem to be religious followers of hers. And they don't have, they lack objectivity, to put it briefly. So
But Tom, we could edit those things.
Yeah, it's possible. Only you can edit. I can't edit it.
Well, I can edit.
Okay.
Well, it's tough to edit because people hate after you chop their stuff.